Change. It's a word that strikes fear, breeds uncertainty, and inspires hope in all of us. Change no longer influences our world, it is our world. And to a large degree, the ability to survive and thrive depends on the way we make change work as individuals and in organizations. Hello, I'm Randy Pennington, president of Pennington Performance Group. This audio learning tool consists of a few thoughts and lessons learned over 20 years of helping leaders and organizations make change work. We'll begin by exploring why we have difficulty with change. We'll then learn how to make change your friend and move on to the leader's role in making change work. You will hear practical ideas you can use to create the desire for change and communicate in ways that build support. Finally, you'll receive valuable ideas about responding when change isn't a choice. The material is recorded in tracks to enable you to move quickly between sections and listen to important information often. You can find additional information on change, becoming integrity-driven, and building a culture committed to results, relationships, and responsibility at our website. The address is www.penningtongroup.com. Thanks for listening, and let's get to it. Each year, the folks at Beloit College in Wisconsin put together a list to help their faculty understand the mindset of incoming freshmen. Believe me, the purpose is not to make you feel old, but to emphasize just how much change we've experienced in our world. Here are a few highlights. People born since 1984 have always watched MTV, and Jay Leno has always been the host of The Tonight Show. John Lennon and John Belushi have always been dead, and Ron Howard has always been a balding movie director. These individuals have always had an answering machine and have probably never seen an 8-track tape. For them, Yugoslavia has never existed, and Perrier has always come in flavors. If you mention a moonwalk, they think of Michael Jackson, not Neil Armstrong. So considering the magnitude and speed of change we've experienced in our lives, you would think we would be better at making it work by now. The reality is, we're not. And here are 3 reasons why. First, the ability to change is based on emotional readiness, not intellectual understanding. I had the privilege of serving as chairman of the board for the Texas affiliate of the American Heart Association a few years back. During that year, I spoke to groups ranging from 5 to 500 about cardiovascular disease and stroke, and I often ask the following questions during my presentations. How many of you know that you should exercise more regularly than you exercise today? How many of you know you should eat healthier than you eat today? And if you smoke, how many of you know you shouldn't smoke? The responses were the same in every situation, and I suspect your answers match the ones I heard from audience members. We know when change is needed. We just don't have the emotional readiness to do anything about it. You can kid yourself into thinking it's a matter of time, resources, or even skills and knowledge, but the truth is, people don't embrace change until they are ready to do so. Here's an important truth. People do things for their reasons, not ours. No one is going to change because they intellectually understand the need or even your rationale for doing so. Speaking of truth, the second reason we have difficulty with change is we suffer from 3D vision. That stands for denial, distortion, and delusion. We deny the facts, distort reality, and delude ourselves into thinking that there is no need for us to change. If you need an example, look at any company that has gone out of business because they failed to adapt their business model. And here's another fact. The 7 last words of any organization are, "We've never done it that way before." Significant and lasting change will not occur until we confront reality and tell ourselves the truth. The third reason we have difficulty with change is past experience. Past experience influences perception, and perception influences everything about our ability to make change work. Each of us brings baggage into every situation. It contains our perceptions and our attitude about change. Some of us carry overnight bags. Others haul steamer trunks on their backs. The baggage can be filled with good experiences or bad experiences. Either way, those experiences influence our perception, and we have a tendency to act in ways that make those perceptions and expectations come to life. Dealing with change is really about dealing with disrupted expectations. The greater the disruption, the more challenging it is to make change work. Expecting things never to change or assuming that all attempts to change will fail dooms us to a self-fulfilling prophecy that diminishes our ability to anticipate and respond to opportunities. Change is often difficult for individuals, and it takes on even more complexity in organizations. Change initiatives in organizations are notorious for their inability to achieve desired results. We'll look at the reasons why in the next section. Now we just do MBBS, Management by Bestseller. And with those words, my client described the feeling shared by employees in organizations everywhere. Who can blame them, considering the apparent never-ending parade of new change initiatives that achieve less than expected results? We addressed why individuals have difficulty with change in the last section. Let's take a look at the ways we complicate matters even more in organizations. Here's the first. Change is not tied to a visible business goal. The number one reason why the best managed organizations succeed at change is their ability to link new initiatives to an important and visible business goal. This simple act ensures that everyone understands the purpose of the change and what results to expect after implementation. Tying change to a visible business goal also builds support by connecting the desired change with the natural motivation to succeed. The second reason why change initiatives fail is no foundation exists on which to build. Your change is destined to fail unless you consider the capacity and environment in which it will occur. It's more than people. The business model and organizational systems must be considered as well. A friend recently told me that his organization introduces a major change every 2 to 3 years. In the past 8 years, new initiatives have included technology designed to make communications and operations smoother. The challenge is the company's business model. It was built in the 1800s and has not seen a major overhaul since. Employees nod and go through the motions, but they know you can't overlay new technology on an out-of-date business model. The third reason why change initiatives fail is the change is mandated rather than created and communicated. A participant in a recent change leadership workshop remarked, "I've already made up my mind. Why should I go through the motions of communicating and selling the change?" She was correct. Some changes should be mandated and are not open for either discussion or input. But there are times when buy-in is critical to the success of your initiative. In those situations, it's important to balance efficiency against effectiveness. It is often better to slow the change and involve others in the decision rather than mandate compliance for the sake of expediency. The leader's challenge is to determine the correct balance. Here are 3 questions to help you determine if a change should be mandated or if you are best served by creating support throughout the organization. First, is there a crisis or emergency driving the need for immediacy? If so, explain what you can, but mandate the change. Second, what will be the perceived impact of the change on individual and organizational performance? Less support building will be necessary if the new initiative is a minor adjustment to an existing process. Changes that need individual and organizational commitment to achieve their full potential require extra attention. Third, does the change require new ways of thinking and performing from people? People support what they help create. Mark Andreessen, founder of Netscape, put it this way: on the web, it's different. You build software, you put it on your website, and it's deployed globally. People don't change so fast. Fourth, we focus on the tools and processes rather than the goal. My father was an avid fisherman, and he told me the following story about 2 guys fishing in a lake near my hometown. He said, 2 friends went fishing and they really caught the fish. One of the friends said, "The next time we go fishing, let's come back to the same place. We'll use the same fishing pole, the same bait, and the same boat. Furthermore," he said, "I'll mark the place in the boat where we were standing when we caught the fish," and he marked a big X in the bottom of the boat. The next time out, the friends used the same boat, bait, and poles. They went to the same location, and they had no luck. The fish had moved. Goals focus us on desired results. Overcommitment to a tool or process stifles creativity and performance improvement as they become obsolete in the face of new advancements. Yet change initiatives often focus on the tool rather than the goal. As a result, individuals lose sight of why the change was made and become emotionally tied to the tool. The fifth and final reason our change initiatives fail is we forget what we know. Everyone has experienced a less than successful change initiative. Most of us have suffered through one or more MBBS encounter. Yet we continue to shoot ourselves in the foot and then wonder why we're limping. Complete this statement before you launch your next change initiative. Change tends to go badly in our organization when I went to my doctor complaining of a pain that occurred when I swung my golf club a certain way. She asked me to demonstrate the movement and then said, "Don't do that anymore," and handed me a bill for $45. You can avoid the MBBS label for your next change initiative by doing these 4 things. Articulate the business goal, build on a solid foundation, involve people when you need them, and avoid doing the things that get in the way of a successful change. I hope you've enjoyed the information so far. We'll look at things you can do to make change work on an individual and organizational level in the remainder of our time together. I believe we must make change our friend to make it work. Here's an excerpt from a presentation to the Purchasing Managers Association that addresses the need to look at change differently. When I got married, my wife said, "Randy, I'll never ask you to change." I thought, cool. Then she went on to say, "I do expect that you'll continually adapt." That's pretty much what we do, isn't it? So, don't call it change. William Bridges had it right. It's not the changes that do us in, it's the transitions that do us in. What he was really saying is that in any change, there's an ending, there's a transition, there's a new beginning. It's over, then there's that middle part where we're really unsure, and then there's this new beginning when we feel fine. How long does it take to go through the transition? It depends. Let's prove it to ourselves. How many of you have moved into a different house or apartment or something in the last 5 years? Okay, several of you have. Now, how long did it take you to feel good about that transition, that felt like you were really home? 3 years. I talked to someone last week that says, 4.5, I'm almost there. On the other hand, the MBA students that I talked with at SMU, I asked them that same question a few months back. One guy said about 2.5 weeks. I said, 2.5 weeks? He said, look, when all you have is an inflatable bed and a duffel bag, it doesn't take long. But it's that transition that causes us the problem. So let's don't think about that anymore. Let's think about, it's not about change, it's about transition. And you know that that's right. A couple of months ago, I went to my eye doctor. And my eye doctor is a wonderful guy. He's about 70 years old. He said, Randy, there's good news. At the end of my examination, Randy, there's great news, as a matter of fact. He said, your arms will be long enough for another couple of years. And we all know what that means, right? That's transition. And when the transition stops, guess what? It's a different kind of new beginning. To make change our friends, stop thinking about change and realize that it's all a matter of movement. We all change. To make change our friend, stop thinking about the change, start thinking about getting through the transition. And here's another piece of that. Once we get to that new beginning, the news is we very rarely go back. I'll prove it to you. Who here remembers when you didn't have a remote control on your television set? Raise your hands, keep them in the air, look around the room and realize that we are the older people. Now, before you had a remote control, did you think you needed one? No, that's why you had kids, right? Boom, change the channel. Okay. Now that you have one, would you ever go back? I know what some of you ladies are thinking. Still don't really have one. Bought the TV, saw it in the carton. It's amazing. Took about 26 minutes. Became surgically implanted into my husband's hands. Not only do we not go back, it usually continues. It usually continues. I used to say, now I have this one remote control, I'll never go back. Guess what? I don't have just one remote control now. Right? I have at least three. I have one for the TV, one for the VCR, and one for the DVD. And the fact that I also have my stereo system right there, I also have one for my stereo system, so I have four. There's always a transition that goes on. And once we get there, we never go back. We even forget how to go back. A few months back, I lost my remote control for the television. For about 2 hours, I walked in front of the TV at least a dozen times, coming within this close of the TV, never once remembered this thing has a manual on and off switch on it somewhere. It's never happened, right? So stop thinking about to make change your friend. Just give up on change and say, look, it is all going to change. As we've discussed, leaders and organizations tend to think in terms of new programs and initiatives. The natural world in which we live operates on the basis of transition and adaptation. William Bridges was right. It's not the changes that do you win, it's the transitions. We'll explore the concepts further in this segment. Here are 5 important techniques to help you and your organization adapt to and transition through your next change. First, respect the past. The organizational practice that frustrates you today was someone's innovative solution in the past. Do not criticize. There's a chance that the old practice has come to be widely accepted and its architect is still in the organization. Past practices should be accepted as right for that time while recognizing that times change. There was a time in my life when I played a great deal of tennis. My racket was one of the best you could buy, a Wilson Stan Smith model. It was made of wood, had a very small hitting area, and felt like it weighed about 8 pounds after you played a match with it. Today's tennis rackets are constructed of lightweight, space-age materials. They weigh about as much as a fly swatter, and they have a hitting surface the size of a trash can lid. I could still take to the court with my trusty wooden racket, but it would be very difficult to compete. I respect its place in the past, but embrace the realization that change is necessary to achieve the results I want and need. Second, recognize what is and what isn't over. Some things never change no matter how drastic the latest organizational initiative or personal crisis. Life still goes on. Organizations will continue to serve customers, produce products, and fulfill responsibilities to stakeholders. What you do doesn't change, how you do it does. The principle applies with life changes as well. The loss of a job or even a loved one brings emotional turmoil. But as long as you're still breathing, there are things that have not changed, such as your responsibilities as a parent, spouse, partner, and contributing member of society. Leaders recognize on a personal level that life goes on, and they help others identify what is and is not over to make the transition and adaptation less painful. Third, ensure the important stuff continues. What is the important stuff in your organization? Is it customer service, producing a product, maintaining an ethical environment? What's the important stuff in your life? Your faith, your relationship with family members, maintaining your personal integrity? Whatever it is, fight to continue it after the change. Involve others in defining the, quote, important stuff. Use them to help ensure the change does not disregard or diminish them. Doing so builds support and makes it easier to adapt to the new environment. Fourth, set the stage for the future. The change you make today will open your eyes to new challenges as well as solve current problems. It is another step in evolving and adapting. Set measurable goals for what you want to achieve. Measure and evaluate progress toward those goals. Most important, show others how the change will move them toward a positive future. And fifth, recognize that more change will be necessary. The only organization or individual that never changes is the one that ceases to exist. Do not assume that today's solution will last forever. More important, do not be guilty of allowing others to believe that this will be the last change that is required. Long-term success depends in a large degree on our ability to anticipate and respond to change. But it's not the change that will do us in, it's our ability to navigate the transition. I've noticed something in my hours spent practicing my golf swing on the driving range. People more readily embrace change when it helps them meet their goals. I've seen individuals embrace advice from total strangers who themselves are terrible golfers if they believe it will help them strike the ball like Tiger Woods. Which leads us to another question. How do you create the desire to change? We'll address that subject in our next section. The ability to grow, adapt, and succeed in an uncertain future is directly linked to your capacity to embrace continuous change. Here's the rub. People don't change easily or overnight. If we could, many of us would wake up tomorrow without some bad habit we've been trying to kick for years. I mentioned back in Section 2 that the desire to change is based on emotional readiness, not intellectual understanding. So how do we create the readiness? There are two basic reasons why people and organizations change. A crisis pushes us, or an opportunity pulls us. There will be the occasional combination of the two factors, but one or the other primarily drives most changes. Unfortunately, most of us wait for crisis. Organizations take drastic measures to introduce new products or control costs only after they are in trouble financially. Individuals decide to adopt a healthier lifestyle after they have experienced a medical problem. The fear brought on by crisis is a powerful motivator for change. But it is a reactive driver with inconsistent results. Examples abound of individuals and organizations that change in response to a crisis and then return to their previous behavior patterns when the risk of danger subsides. Their history is a pinball machine of reacting to crisis, and they rarely build the discipline to sustain world-class performance. Here's another truth. If everything is a crisis, nothing is a crisis. Relying on perpetual crisis to motivate change desensitizes individuals and organizations to legitimate threats that arise. The alternative to fear and crisis as a change driver is to use an opportunity to pull people in the desired direction. Creative tension is generated when our current reality is inconsistent with our vision or goal. Have you ever watched a young child going after a cookie jar on the top of a refrigerator? The child is acutely aware that the current reality, I can't reach the cookies, is inconsistent with a desired goal, a big, juicy chocolate chip cookie with macadamia nuts. No one has to tell the child to change her actions. A child committed to the compelling goal of a chocolate chip cookie will readily invent and embrace new techniques to succeed. The same principle applies in organizations. Here are 3 ideas you can use to generate the desire to change. First, create a compelling vision or goal. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. inspired the world with his I Have a Dream speech. The results would not have been the same if he announced, I have a strategic plan, systematically laid out on 37 PowerPoint slides. Make the vision compelling and personal. It can be as grand as Dr. King's dream or as practical as Sam Walton's Beat Yesterday philosophy. Walton's goal of besting the performance for the same day of the week 1 year earlier, like the cookie jar on top of the refrigerator, gave individuals a visible goal at which to shoot. Second, show people reality. Walton's Beat Yesterday philosophy only works if everyone knows how they performed yesterday and today. Dr. King's dream for a better world came to life in the minds and hearts of millions because he showed us what reality looked like. Humans are problem-solving by nature, but we will only continue to work toward a goal when we have a vehicle to track progress. Here's another example from my father's days as a service manager at the local international harvester dealer. He attended a training class about motivating people to change their performance, and the instructor told the following story about an engine manufacturing plant. The night shift had a meeting and decided to write a big 6 on the floor so that everyone could see it as they entered the plant. When the day shift came in, they asked, "What's this big number 6 on the floor?" The night shift answered, "That's how many units we turned out on our shift." The day shift said, "Okay, we'll show them," and they wrote a big number 7 on the floor. The night shift wrote an 8, the day shift wrote 9, and on it went. Each shift increased its performance and challenged the other to beat it. Like the child after the cookie, These men readily changed because of the creative tension that exists when reality is different from a compelling vision. Another way to create the desire to change is to use honest mistakes as learning opportunity. This is not a plea for reduced accountability. It is a realization that mistakes are inevitable in every change. It is the rare individual or organization that achieves immediate perfection. Honest mistakes used as learning opportunities and corrected in a non-punitive manner create an environment where new ideas and techniques can flourish. Here's the important truth from this section. People will readily change to meet their own goals. Imagine the change that must take place to increase productivity in your organization by 25%. That is what happened when the night shift at the engine manufacturing plant improved from 6 to 8 units per shift. There was no new corporate program with buttons and wallet cards and no videotapes from the CEO, just a team of people who decided to challenge themselves and their peers. One of the most repeated questions I've received about change over the past 20 years is, how can I communicate change in a way that builds support? We'll answer that question in the next segment. The experts have it wrong, at least many of them. Organizations have been told that effective change communication requires splashy, coordinated media campaigns complete with videos, full-color brochures, and senior management roadshows. Slick campaigns win awards for your media department, but do they really encourage change? TJ and Sandar Larkin, authors of the book Communicating Change, provide a simple and effective criteria for evaluating communication programs. They wrote, if the communication changes behavior, it's good communication. If it doesn't, it's bad communication. Unfortunately, bad communication is rampant. Have you sat in the back of the room as employees watch the videos or listen to the management presentations? It's not a pretty sight. I know because I'm guilty of recommending overblown communication programs to clients in the past. One group even transported all 600 of their employees to an off-site location for a rally complete with rock music, confetti, and food. The employees loved the party, but many wondered aloud if the benefit of the change would be in inverse proportion to the amount of money spent on the communication. It was very difficult for the change to live up to the hype. Corporate videos, well-designed brochures, and senior management presentations have a place. But be wary of a communication plan that relies exclusively on their use. Employees basically want the following 5 questions answered about any impending change. 1. What is the change? Use plain language and tell it like it is. If the change is negative, say so. If it is not a major departure from the existing strategy or tactic, do not make it one by overselling. 2. Why is the change necessary? What's the good business reason for the change? Is there a crisis that must be averted? An opportunity that can be exploited? We discussed it earlier. Change initiatives that are tied to a visible, compelling reason or goal have the best chance for success. Those that do not are doomed to cynicism, apathy, and possibly sabotage. 3. How will it affect them? Your employer has just announced a major reorganization. Is your first thought about the savings that will result from this new realignment? No way. What you really want to know is what's going to happen to your job. Communication plans that ignore individual concerns will be tuned out. 4. How will the change be evaluated? If the change is important enough to implement, it is important enough to measure and evaluate. There are 3 basic categories of measurement: results, activities, and perceptions. Communicating the measurement and evaluation plan for your change initiative lets everyone know that you're serious. It can also influence the behavior of individuals who are waiting to see if anyone notices that they are not making the change. And 5, what do my direct supervisor and manager think about the change? The immediate supervisor and manager should have a primary role in communicating any change. It's not that frontline employees don't care what the corporate officer or director thinks. It's just that they don't see those people on a regular basis. There are some messages that you want to be delivered by the CEO or senior manager. Even then, it's important that the direct supervisor and manager make a visible contribution to the change communication. True communication requires shared meaning and shared understanding. The opportunities for success are increased when we tell people what they want to know rather than what we want to say. It might not win an award, but it works. Deborah Norville did it. So did Olympian Dan O'Brien, Vice President Al Gore, and everyone who lost a job in the past year. Sooner or later, you will have to do it too. The ability to thrive in the face of a setback, disappointment, or loss is crucial to a leader's success. Some call it resiliency. Others simply refer to it as bouncing back. Here are 7 ideas to help you respond. 1. Accept reality and the grief that goes with it. Dan O'Brien and Dave Johnson were to battle head-to-head for the gold medal in the decathlon at the 1992 Olympic Games in Barcelona. That changed when Dan failed to qualify for the team. O'Brien was quoted in Parade magazine saying, "I remember feeling really alone, with nobody to turn to." Sadness, anger, and confusion are all normal emotions in response to loss. The more devastating the loss, the more intense the emotional response. To move forward, we must acknowledge both the new reality and our feelings of disappointment and grief. 2. Recognize the challenges. The challenge of change is amplified when dealing with a disappointment or setback. Letting go of the past is often painful and difficult. There will eventually be a new normal. But in these days of instant everything, it's important to remember that change does not necessarily happen easily or overnight. 3. Take stock. There's no denying the feelings of devastation that come from a loss or setback, but an objective look at your resources, options, and reality can help set the stage for moving forward. 4. Tap into your support system. The words of songwriters Lennon and McCartney ring true more than ever when dealing with disappointment and loss. I get by with a little help from my friends. Surround yourself with family, friends, and resources that will provide support and encouragement. Most important, ask for help when you need it. A source of assistance could be standing next to you, and you never know it. 5. Explore a different future. We tend to define ourselves by our past rather than our potential. Arthritis prevented Anna Mary Robertson Moses from doing the needlework she loved, so she began painting at age 75. 26 years and approximately 1,600 paintings later, Grandma Moses had become one of America's most acclaimed artists. Disappointment and loss create an opportunity to ask new questions that lead to unique opportunities. 6. Take baby steps. Many people thought Deborah Norville was washed up at age 33. She had risen almost overnight to become co-host of NBC's Today Show, and just as quickly, she was gone. Norville became depressed and non-functional. Her first step toward regaining control was to get out of bed and take a shower. One shower led to the resolve to do it every day. That turned into getting dressed and going outside. A year-long stint in radio provided the confidence to retry television, which ultimately led to a hosting job on Inside Edition. As the adage goes, how does an ant eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And 7, celebrate success. There's a cultural tradition of celebrating milestones. We celebrate birthdays, anniversaries, the end of the year, and retirement. So why wait? Embrace every opportunity to celebrate behavior that moves you toward your new beginning and the milestones you achieve along the way. We do not always get to choose what happens. We do choose how we handle it. In the end, may we all echo the words of Grandma Moses. I look back on my life, a good day's work. It was done, and I feel satisfied with it. I made the best out of what life offered. The responsibility for anticipating and adapting to change is one of the most important responsibilities a leader faces, individually and in an organization. I hope you discovered useful ideas in this collection of thoughts. You can find additional resources on our website at www.penningtongroup.com. Check out the articles and sign up for our electronic newsletter, Positive Performance. And please use the information on the label to contact us when we can assist you with a presentation or expertise to successfully implement change in your organization. I wish you continued success, and remember, leaders make change work.